The cold was brutal. Snow covered everything. A girl, all alone, with no clue where to go. The wind howled. Her footsteps vanished into the endless white. Despair took over. But then, something emerged from the fog. An unexpected encounter. A fight for survival. A girl gets separated from her parents during a snow excursion, but no one could have guessed what she'd do. What happened on that mountain changed everything. Forever. Get ready for a thrilling story. Hit that subscribe button now and find out how this incredible adventure ends. The cold bit, like tiny needles on her skin. The white snow stretched everywhere, blanketing the mountains like a thick carpet. In the middle of a lively group of tourists was Sophie, a 7-year-old girl. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she walked beside her parents, exploring this icy paradise. It was the family's first trip to the Swiss Alps, a dream finally come true. With every step in the fluffy snow, Sophie giggled, enchanted by the crunchy sound under her boots. Her dad, a tall, cheerful man, joked around, tossing small handfuls of snow into the air, while her mom held the camera, capturing every precious moment. The tour group moved slowly, listening to the guide's warnings about the dangers of the area. "Never wander off alone," the guide said sternly. Sophie nodded, but her attention was quickly caught by something unexpected. A white rabbit hopping between ice-covered rocks. Her eyes widened. Without a second thought, she took a few steps to follow the little animal. The wind whistled, and her heart raced with excitement. But when she looked back, the familiar faces of her parents were gone. Her heart sank. She looked around, but all she saw was endless white and towering mountains in the distance. The snow began to fall harder. Her cries were swallowed by the strong wind. She was alone. Sophie started walking hurriedly in the direction she thought she'd come from. But the landscape was monotonous and unforgiving, with snow-covered trees and a darkening gray sky. The wind howled in her ears, and the cold seeped into her clothes. She called for her parents, but her voice was drowned out by the growing storm. Snow piled up on her little coat, making it harder to move. Her eyes welled up with tears. She'd never felt so alone. After walking for a while, her legs began to ache. She stumbled and fell into the soft snow, feeling the cold burn her skin. Despair gripped her chest when, suddenly, she heard a different sound, a deep, strong bark coming from nearby. Sophie lifted her head and saw a large, sturdy figure approaching. A massive dog with thick brown fur walked purposefully toward her. It had a small barrel attached to its neck and kind, alert eyes. It was a Saint Bernard. The dog crouched near her, offering warmth with its huge body. Shivering, Sophie touched its soft head and felt a small comfort in the chaos. She didn't know where it had come from, but she knew it was there to help her. With a gentle growl, the dog stood up and took a step forward, looking back as if expecting her to follow. Sophie hesitated for a moment, but something inside her told her to trust this new friend. The storm worsened, and she had no choice. Summoning her strength, she got up and began following the dog through the deep snow. She didn't know where he was taking her, but one thing was certain. She wasn't alone anymore. The snow kept falling, and every step felt like a challenge. Sophie felt her strength fading with every moment. The intense cold made her movements sluggish, and her breath came out in small white puffs. Her fingers were numb, and she began to feel the weight of exhaustion. The Saint Bernard pressed on with determination, but also showed signs of fatigue. He stopped for a moment, sniffed the air, and looked at the girl, as if trying to encourage her to keep going. Sophie knew she had to push forward, but her body seemed to refuse. Suddenly, a terrifying sound broke the silence of the blizzard. A loud rumble echoed through the mountains, followed by a slight tremor in the ground. An avalanche. Sophie's eyes widened, fear gripping her chest. The dog growled softly, sensing the imminent danger. The wind grew even fiercer, whipping their faces. Sophie realized they couldn't stay there any longer. But where could they run? The Saint Bernard barked loudly, and without hesitation gently grabbed Sophie's coat sleeve with his teeth, pulling her away from the sound of the avalanche. They struggled forward, the snow piling up around them. The cold was relentless, and Sophie felt her consciousness slipping. But the dog didn't give up. He nudged the girl toward a small shelter between snow-covered rocks and lay down beside her, shielding her from the biting wind with his own body. Shivering, Sophie hugged the dog and whispered weakly, "You're amazing. I'll call you Barry. Do you like that name?" The Saint Bernard perked up his ears slightly and wagged his tail, as if approving the choice. Sophie smiled, feeling a spark of hope. "Thank you, Barry. Don't leave me, okay?" Barry gave her cheek a gentle lick and rested his big head against her, assuring her he'd stay. Sophie closed her eyes and, overcome by the cold and exhaustion, passed out. Barry noticed Sophie wasn't responding anymore. He sniffed her face and let out a soft whine, worried. He knew he had to act fast. With immense effort, he positioned the girl's body on his back and began trudging through the deep snow. Night fell, making everything even more challenging. He heard distant whistles and followed them, stumbling along the way but never stopping. His muscles ached, but he wouldn't give up. After long minutes of walking, he spotted lights flickering between the trees. Another whistle sounded, this time closer. Barry barked loudly, calling for attention. A human voice responded in the dark. Soon, shadows approached, and a flashlight lit up his face and Sophie's. The rescue team had arrived. Barry reached the rescue team exhausted, but determined. The rescuers quickly wrapped Sophie in thermal blankets and placed her on a stretcher. Her parents arrived moments later, running in tears to hug her. The reunion was emotional, with tight hugs and words of gratitude for the heroic dog. But Barry was also in bad shape. His body trembled from exhaustion and cold. The rescuers realized he needed immediate care and took him to a nearby vet. After exams and a long night of recovery, Barry finally opened his eyes, greeted by Sophie and her family's affection. The vet explained that without proper care, Barry might not have made it. Sophie looked at her parents with a sparkle in her eyes and, without hesitation, asked, "Can we take Barry home?" Sophie's parents smiled and nodded. Barry now had a new home, surrounded by love and gratitude. He wasn't just a hero, he was family forever. If you believe in the power of love and the loyalty of dogs, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And I want to know, have you ever experienced or heard of an incredible rescue like this? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it.